With both Disney and Marvel already panicking over Ironheart episodes 1 through 3 and the ongoing ratings disaster that it is, there is also way too much focus on the LGBTQ community by the fandom in a negative manner. And it just needs to go away, I think, for a healthy story to grow, and for Riri to really share her limelight with...
Natalie AI thing seems utterly preposterous and ridiculous, and even for an MCU show, I'm finding it to be a little bit of a bridge too far to go. The Heist crew, all lame. Every single one of them, all lame.
And so in this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slog.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
It deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this show. After I did my reaction, I kept getting, hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that bad.
Ironheart might be one of the worst executed ideas ever in the MCU, because under all that garbage was actually potential.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark, it's like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through and he's like, who is that? And she's like, I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark. And he's like, I like that girl. And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
Ironheart is back, this time going to an uncomfortable place for viewers.
Ironheart is the biggest L of Marvel of all time. The reactions are just spectacular. Supposedly he's smarter than Tony Stark, bites an electric wire, sells her soul to gain magic powers, uses new powers to steal. What did the writers mean by this? Smoke detector beeps.
I can understand why she's frustrated. That's how I feel watching her interviews.
How do you feel about the impact that she's having on young Black girls? And I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it should be.
Ironheart is practically unwatchable.
This show basically keyed their car, their mom, and in their bowl of cereal in the morning.
They have Dominique Thorne, you know, going out there talking about DEI, LGBTQ rights, and how there's no agenda there, and she continued to do so. But the other thing is that they also had Robert Downey Jr., and they had him roll out and really kind of prop the show up and prop the character of Riri Williams up above Tony Stark.
It's the MCU rumor that just won't quit. Zendaya taking over as Riri Williams in Ironheart. And while there's no official word from Marvel, the moves happening in the background suggest they're weighing their options very carefully. We've covered every twist so far: Dominique Thorne's debut, the ratings slide, the mixed critical reception, and now, here's the latest update. Ironheart closed out with one of the boldest finales Marvel has done for Disney+, a young hero making a morally dangerous deal, setting herself up for a potential villain arc. That's storytelling you don't abandon lightly. But Marvel's silence on a second season has fans uneasy. And Dominique herself says she hasn't heard anything from the studio. Behind the scenes, Ironheart 2 is showing up on internal planning sheets next to talent profile expansion. That's corporate speak for, we need a face who can sell this everywhere. It's the same approach Marvel took before stunt casting The Acolyte in its last weeks, and before bringing major names into the Marvel's reshoots. When you hear profile expansion in Marvel circles, expect big, headline-grabbing names to follow. That's how Zendaya entered the rumor mill, not from a casting call, but from the logical intersection of MCU continuity, marketability, and fan engagement. She already has a foothold in Marvel as MJ.
We already know that those out there like Dominique Thorne, the main actress of the show who plays Riri Williams, after really going after fans and really going after the critics, it's only making matters worse for both Disney and Marvel.
She draws crowds from outside the superhero bubble, and she's the kind of star who can revive an underperforming brand overnight. The question is whether Marvel sees Ironheart as a property worth reinventing around a star, or if they'll risk sticking with their original vision and betting on Dominique to win audiences back. For a show that ended on such a loud cliffhanger, Ironheart's post-finale silence has been deafening. The Mephisto reveal, the resurrection twist, the cursed hood, these were all designed to set the stage for something bigger. But since the credits rolled, Marvel hasn't made a single official announcement about what comes next. No renewal, no production timeline, not even a vague, we'll see. Dominique Thorne, who should be at the center of the conversation, has been unusually quiet. In interviews, she's admitted she hasn't been contacted about a second season and has no updates from Marvel. That alone is rare. In the MCU, even when a project is in limbo, the lead actor is usually looped in early, if only to keep the brand message consistent. What's even more unusual is the absence of Marvel's trademark hype machine. No teasers, no behind-the-scenes featurettes, no merch drops to keep the character fresh in fans' minds. It's as if the studio deliberately pressed pause. And in an industry where timing is everything, that pause is fueling speculation that changes are being made before anything moves forward. Industry trackers have noticed something else. Ironheart's internal project codename has shifted. Previously listed under standard Marvel sequel formatting, it's now tagged with Casting Profile Review, a label the studio has used in the past when considering headline-making cast changes. That shift has been enough to keep the Zendaya theory alive, even without a single shred of confirmation from Marvel itself. But here's the kicker. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Marvel is reevaluating multiple Disney Plus projects after uneven performance in the streaming space. Series like Echo and Secret Invasion already prompted behind-the-scenes shakeups. And if the company believes Ironheart needs more than a story refresh.
The thing about Ironheart is that yes, we do know that the last 3 episodes will be debuting tonight, by the way, really fulfilling the show for season 1, and I highly doubt that there's going to be a season 2, based on the ratings disaster that it is, based on the critics really calling this show out for what it is.
If it needs a face that dominates headlines, we could be looking at the first major character swap of the multiverse saga. And that's where the stakes skyrocket, because Marvel can't afford another misfire. The next move they make with Ironheart could set the tone for how they handle struggling characters going forward. If you've been tracking Marvel's recent moves, Ironheart's situation is starting to look less like an isolated problem and more like part of a bigger pattern. Over the past 2 years, the MCU has shifted from being the most reliable box office engine in Hollywood to a franchise that's constantly trying to regain its footing. Look at the playbook. When the Marvels underdelivered, they didn't just adjust the marketing, they rewrote large sections, brought in big-name cameos, and reframed the narrative around Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. The Acolyte in mid-2024 faced lukewarm engagement, so the studio rolled out last-minute stunt casting and a mystery box ending designed to get everyone talking again. Even the upcoming Fantastic Four reboot has been through multiple casting shakeups and script overhauls before shooting a single frame. Ironheart fits right into this larger recalibration strategy. Marvel knows that keeping a character alive in the MCU isn't just about telling a good story anymore, it's about ensuring that story breaks through in a crowded streaming landscape. And when a debut series doesn't create that must-watch urgency, the easiest lever to pull is the cast list. That's where Zendaya's name gains weight. She's not just an established MCU presence as MJ from the Spider-Man films, she's a cross-platform powerhouse, drawing in audiences from TV, fashion, and music. Her addition to a project instantly creates coverage, trends, and viral content without Marvel spending a dime extra on marketing. From a purely strategic standpoint, the temptation is obvious. But swapping out Dominique Thorne for a proven star would also set a new precedent. Marvel has replaced characters before. Rhodey's actor changed between Iron Man films being the most famous.
Certain is that this is a show that nobody asked for. This is also a show that is based on a comic back in 2016 that was canceled, quite frankly. That's also another fact that people have to realize. But focusing on Disney CEO Bob Iger and Kevin Feige, they are desperately trying to oversell this show to a degree that we have never seen before.
But doing it midstream in a Disney Plus storyline would send a very different message. It would tell fans that no role, no matter how recently introduced, is immune to being retooled if the numbers don't add up. And that raises the real question. If this move happens, is it about saving Ironheart or about protecting Marvel's bigger multiverse saga blueprint? That's what we'll tackle next. Ironheart isn't just another Disney Plus title, she's supposed to be part of Marvel's next-generation lineup, a bridge between the grounded tech world of Iron Man and the chaotic, dimension-hopping chaos of the multiverse saga. That's why her debut in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, felt like such a deliberate move. She wasn't just a supporting character, she was a test case for whether audiences were ready to embrace a brand new genius hero without Tony Stark around. Now here's the kicker. In Marvel's original internal roadmap, Riri Williams wasn't meant to stay confined to streaming. Early drafts of the multiverse saga had her penciled in for appearances alongside characters like Sam Wilson's Captain America, Kate Bishop, and even Doctor Strange. In other words, she was going to be one of the connective threads holding together the Young Avengers meets multiverse era. That's why the Zendaya rumor hits differently. It's not just a casting swap. It could mean rewriting the way Ironheart ties into those larger storylines. If Marvel inserts a high-profile face into the role now, they could fast-track her into crossover films without worrying about audience buy-in. Zendaya's already proven she can share the screen with MCU heavyweights and hold her own, which, from a marketing perspective, is pure gold. But here's where the stakes get even higher. If Ironheart stumbles again, whether with Dominique or Zendaya, it could force Marvel to scale back, or even cut her role from major crossover events. And once that happens, the ripple effect hits everything.
So let's get into this. Now, one thing about Bob Iger is that we know that I, along with many others out there, like to call him Bob Liger, because all this guy does is lie to the audience, he lies to the shareholders, he lies to anybody out there, in order to really kind of string them along into the following year in hopes that they will stay around, whether it's shareholders or customers. And we already know that Disney Plus is a failing platform.
Potential Young Avengers projects, multiverse team-ups, and even side arcs for characters who were meant to interact with Riri. In short, Marvel isn't just deciding who wears the suit in Season 2. They're deciding whether Ironheart remains a central figure in the multiverse saga, or becomes another sidelined hero whose big MCU future quietly fades away. And that's why the Mephisto twist from Season 1 might be the real make-or-break card Marvel is holding, because it gives them a path to reshape Ironheart's story entirely without losing continuity. That's where we're going next. When Ironheart ended its first season with Riri Williams, making a dangerous deal with Mephisto, most fans saw it as a shocking cliffhanger. But for Marvel's creative team, it's more than just a plot twist. It's a built-in reset button. The moment you introduce Mephisto into any storyline, you open the door to reality bending, identity shifting, and nothing is what it seems storytelling. Think about it. Marvel has used similar devices before. WandaVision altered characters' appearances and realities at will. Loki played with multiple versions of the same character, each with distinct looks and personalities. In the comics, demonic pacts often lead to dramatic changes in how characters are perceived or even physically manifested. Mephisto's magic is the perfect in-universe explanation for a character's sudden new face, voice, or attitude, and it would all make sense without breaking canon. This is exactly the kind of narrative cover Marvel could use if they decided to swap Dominique Thorne for Zendaya, or even just retool Riri's personality. Instead of pretending nothing happened, they could frame the change as a direct consequence of Riri's deal. Maybe Mephisto enhances her in a way that alters her appearance, or maybe we're suddenly seeing an alternate Riri from a splinter timeline where the deal went differently. It's a storytelling trick that solves multiple problems at once. First one is,
it is a failing business model for, of course, Disney. You know, we already know that Tony Gilroy admitted to this, the guy who created the Andor series, both Season 1 and Season 2. Disney just doesn't have the amount of money that they have anymore to create all of these shows. However, interestingly enough, with the Ironheart ratings disaster only getting worse for those at Disney and Marvel,
no awkward gap in the narrative. The change becomes part of the story. Then the marketing. The transformation could be teased in trailers, generating huge buzz. And then the fan division. It gives Dominique's defenders a way to accept the shift without feeling like her version was simply discarded. And here's the real kicker. Marvel could still bring Dominique back later as her original Riri in a multiverse crossover. That's the kind of move that would turn a recast controversy into a headline-making, both versions team-up event. But before Marvel makes any bold casting decisions, they're watching one thing closely, the fan war already brewing online. And that's where this story takes a sharp turn. If you've scrolled through Twitter, TikTok, or Reddit since the Zendaya rumor broke, you've seen it. A fandom split right down the middle. On one side, Zendaya loyalists are convinced her star power could rescue Ironheart from becoming another forgotten MCU footnote. They're posting mock-ups of her in the red and gold armor, imagining crossover scenes with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and calling her the upgrade the MCU needs. On the other side, Dominique Thorne's defenders are digging in hard. For them, this isn't about star power, it's about respect. They argue that no actor could have thrived under Season 1's uneven pacing, underdeveloped side plots, and creative direction that left Riri feeling like a background player in her own story. Many say Dominique was set up to take the fall for writing problems that were out of her hands. Fan compilations roasting awkward season 1 scenes are still going viral on TikTok, paired with captions like, "This is supposed to be Iron Man's successor?" Meanwhile, Reddit threads with thousands of upvotes have titles like "She Deserved Better" and "Give Dominique a spin-off instead." Some corners of the fandom are even threatening boycotts of a potential season 2 if she's replaced, though history shows outrage often turns into curiosity once a big name is announced. And here's the twist Disney won't admit. This online chaos is actually helping.
Already those like Kevin Feige and Bob Iger are heading into damage control mode at a level that we have never seen before. In this case, Bob Iger got very defensive after the LGBTQ backlash, and also in the midst of the ratings beginning to tank already. Now, Iger recently delivered the following in a desperate move to damage control the situation.
For a show that had faded into streaming obscurity, Ironheart is suddenly trending again. Every speculative edit, every fan debate, every theory video is giving the brand free publicity. The question is whether Marvel can convert that buzz into actual viewership when the next chapter drops. Behind closed doors, Marvel and Disney executives aren't just looking at fan sentiment, they're running the numbers. Season 1 had a sharp drop in viewership between episodes 1 and 2, with retention reportedly falling close to 60%. For a Marvel project, that's near catastrophic. But in the weeks after the Zendaya rumor surfaced, online engagement around the Ironheart brand spiked across every major platform. That's the math Disney likes to see. They know controversy pulls casual viewers back into the conversation, even if those viewers aren't hardcore MCU fans. And when a franchise is fighting to stay culturally relevant, name recognition matters as much as, if not more than, critical acclaim. Disney also understands the power of narrative reframing. If they spin a casting change as part of a bold new creative direction, tied into Mephisto's deal, a multiverse collision, or a Spider-Man crossover, they can sell it as a must-see event rather than a quiet course correction. It's the same approach they've used to turn potential failures into comeback stories before. No matter who plays Riri Williams in the future, Marvel's larger plan is clear. Ironheart is meant to be a connector in the MCU web. She has ties to Wakanda, to Tony Stark's legacy, and now, thanks to the Mephisto arc, to the supernatural side of Marvel's storytelling. That's a combination no other current MCU hero has, and it's why the studio is reluctant to let the character fade, even if the first season didn't land as planned. Insiders say Marvel has at least 2 branching outlines for Ironheart's next appearance. In one, Dominique Thorne stays on, with a tighter, more cinematic storyline that repositions her for crossovers. In the other, a high-profile star steps in to fast-track the character into major film events. Both scenarios use the Mephisto deal as the narrative glue, giving Marvel flexibility to pivot based on market response in the months ahead. If Dominique stays, Marvel gets to prove they believe in developing new stars. If Zendaya steps in, they get instant global buzz and a guaranteed ratings boost. Either way, the stakes aren't just for Ironheart, they're for Marvel's ability to adapt in a streaming environment that's far less forgiving than it was when the MCU dominated the conversation. So, what do you think? Should Marvel stick with Dominique Thorne or roll the dice with a Zendaya-led reboot? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want the latest on every MCU shakeup before it hits the headlines, hit subscribe. We're just getting started.